Hello, Krista.
Hi, Leslie. Great to see you again.
It's so good to see you. I know that some of you, if you were here in the beginning, I talked a little bit about Krista, and we have kind of known each other for probably a couple of years now. She attended one of these very similar summits, and she was there from the beginning to the end. She listened to every speaker, she took notes, and she took advantage of the free gifts and the VIP gifts. And her life has changed so completely since then. She's taken, she's the same mentor that I have to work in the Akashic Records. She's an author. She's just doing things that I don't think she ever thought she would do 2 years ago. And so this is the power of being here in one of these days and coming back here to share with us her wisdom that she's gained. Thank you for being here, Krista.
Oh, thank you so much. And I do want to give a shout out to Deanna from Rose Hope, but also to Patricia. Everyone, please sign up for the VIP, not for only everybody else's amazing, gifts, but for Patricia's. Hers, when I went to hers, was another kind of life altering, moment. So when she was working before with the cards, I was thinking, okay, this is for me, but almost every speaker I was able to connect to on such a deeper level. And I was able to do that before. It has enhanced my life. And of course, no doubtly, this one has done the same.
I love to hear that, Krista. That's why I do this. That's why we have these days to raise the energy, raise the vibration, and help people to heal and to shine their light so we can keep doing that. Excuse me for having to hold my glasses once again. They keep falling forward. That's what you get for wearing new glasses. Krista, you were talking about intentional living, right? Intentional
Yeah,
living from autopilot to alignment. I really
yeah.
resonate with this, but I know that there's a story behind this for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's so many things that I used to take for granted. For me, being intentional, I thought was being perfect, but really it's about being present. And
Mhm.
how I had to learn it myself was I had to go through my own journey where I was a people pleaser. I would say yes all the time, take extra people's shifts so they can go ahead and make memories. They can go on their vacations. I would help out other people until suddenly I started getting sick. I started having some seizures and over different medical conditions in and out of the hospital. But without getting into all that, I ended up finding out I had this rare disease, which left me being unable to talk, unable to walk, and unable to really move. And here's just a quick little visual of where I was only 6 years ago. So sometimes visuals, help. And so I had to be intentional from being where I was in that picture to where I am today. And I almost remember the moment. Again, I went through years of treatment. I was in the hospitals for years, in and out. And one time I was laying in bed. I was used to people bringing me my food, right? Because I couldn't walk and everything was so in so much pain. So I was laying there kind of like a wet noodle in bed. And I would hear my family talking out at the dinner table. And I thought to myself, I can be laying here in bed, yes, in pain, or I can be sitting outside with my family, maybe still in pain, but I'd be part of it, be part of being that family. So sure enough, I got out of bed, and by that time, I was able to use a walker, and I shuffled to the kitchen table. And I think when I showed up at the kitchen and my family first saw me, I think it was like walking the red carpet for some people. And right away, they're like, "What do you need? What do you need?" And I said, "A chair, with a cushion would be nice." So I can come sit here. And that was the start of me realizing that if I was intentional with what I was doing, with what I was thinking, what I would say, and what actions I would take, it would shift my life to a point where I can hopefully get to inspire others and offer them hope. But it wasn't this overnight kind of wishy-washy, I'm going to do it, this great motivational moment. And that would have been fantastic. But I started small with every day I'm going to get out of bed, started with that. And I would celebrate that. Even though at times I would say, oh, I want to stay out of bed for maybe 2 or 3 hours, but it was only a half hour, I would celebrate that half hour. And then I wanted to work out to using a cane. And I would celebrate the fact that I was doing my physio exercises every day. And eventually I was able to walk with a cane. And I started using other motivational words like the word because. And I know a lot of times we're not supposed to use because it's a cop out, but for me, I would use it as I'm going to be using a cane and I'm getting better doing my physio exercises because I want to dance with my husband on our anniversary.
Right.
So that gave me that extra little kick that I needed. And eventually I was able to keep going, keep celebrating those wins and not beating myself up for those days that we all have. But I had to intentionally make those decisions every single day and moment by moment sometimes. And it wasn't easy. There were days I wanted to give up. There was days I did give up.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I
And
think
yet
that's
you're here
normal.
still, right? You're here
Yeah.
still.
And it was during that journey that led me to a point where I then intentionally had to become vulnerable. You see, I wanted to hide because to be seen, not able to speak at the time, I couldn't get my mind and my voice to match. And I had my best friend finally tell me, you're missing about every fourth word. Of course, my family was saying, oh, you're doing great. But it takes sometimes people who are really honest. So I had to learn how to re-speak, and re-talk. So
Hmm.
to be vulnerable, to do something like this would have been my worst nightmare. So I started off something small. I was offered a book deal and I thought, who am I to write a book? And then I was told, who who are you not to be able to write a book? And I
Exactly.
didn't focus on all my tragedies. I have a few other ones, but I don't need to, focus on all that. I'm focusing on being intentional in moving forward, learning from what I went through, but moving forward to where I want to go. So I wrote that book, and that started me on a path that made Amazon #1 bestseller. And it started opening all these doors. I made New York bestseller. I was on the Jumbotron, and it opened up more podcasts, more summits, like meeting you, and these so many amazing people that I kept saying yes, even though I was shaking again, thinking, there's no way I have anything to offer until I started receiving these messages from people who read my book or heard some of my story or saw me on a summit or on a TV show or some interview. And the messages were how I inspired them and gave them some hope. And I would have tears coming down my face because I never thought that I would be able to do that. Becoming intentional with what I was doing and what I was saying and what I was thinking every day was impacting everybody, not only my family, but a ripple effect. So many people across the world who I didn't even know. And wow, what a feeling that was.
Krista, you've unpacked a whole lot in that little bit, and there were some times where I wanted to jump in, but I really want to say a couple of things that really stand out for me. There was a beginning when you had a hard time getting out of bed, and you celebrated when you got out of bed. And there are many people that I've worked with who will say to me, "But I didn't have a choice. I had kids I had to take care of, whatever." And what I want to say is you always have a choice. You could have stayed in bed. Somebody else could have taken care of those kids, and you chose, you were intentional about getting out of bed and to give yourself that credit for doing that. It might seem small, but it's an incredible step when you're having a hard time with it. And you talked about that all along the way. When I got out of bed, or when I did it for half an hour and then I started to work out. These are important steps, and you got to give yourself credit and stop kind of saying, I didn't have a choice. Yeah, you did. And you were intentional. And this is
Yeah.
what can happen, right? With those small intentional steps, is you
Um,
create a tsunami.
exactly. And thank you for really pointing that out, because for me, it's like I took it for granted before. Um, if I would ask anybody here, anybody anywhere, what did you do last week? And, without getting specifics, I'm wondering if you would say, well, I got up, I brushed my teeth and got ready for the day and did whatever I did during the day. Maybe not remembering any of the specifics,
Right.
because they were like on this automatic pilot during the day. And they went home, put their head on their pillow, and then they would start ruminating and worrying about all these things that didn't even happen yet, or things that happened during the day that you're making up stories that are going to happen tomorrow. And there's this startling fact that Mr. Or Dr. Joe Dispenza says, is that we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. I didn't even know I used to think that much, but 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts from the day before. So if you think about it, if you keep thinking the same things over and over, nothing changes. We create the same habits unless we intentionally make a choice and do something different. And I know for me, it was looking at what I was going to do and where was my path heading, to taking the opportunities that were given to me. Saying yes was a big thing, and changing those habits instead of maybe getting up. I mean, I did brush my teeth, I would say that, but before I would have that coffee, I would say, no, I'm going to walk to the mailbox. And that was something, that was such a huge accomplishment. I actually took some videos of myself and put them on Facebook. And because I was so proud that I was, walking to the mailbox with my puppy, Hope, who's actually my service dog. But she's we didn't tell her she's a dog. She's really like part of the family.
Right.
But
Right.
it's funny because it really got me thinking. Yesterday was my daughter's graduation, and I remember back when I was a kid. And back then, I couldn't wait to grow up and become a teenager, because then I can get my license and I can drive. And then I just couldn't wait to graduate where she was. And I couldn't wait to get that job, my career, and make money. I just couldn't wait to finally find the love of my life, which I did. And I got a child. I couldn't wait to have that baby. And even though I did have some tragedies, my husband did pass away, I still focused on, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get to the point where my son was able to be more independent so I could go and work out my career and do things more. But I never realized life wouldn't be all date nights like with my husband, and all play dates with, other moms. It was a juggling act between being a career and dinners and taking care of my kids and being up all night, so these things that I was telling myself from being a child became this reality that that's not what life was. And so as I was continuing on creating a life, I was fortunate enough to meet my best friend 7 years later. I did get remarried and have two more kids, the one who graduated last night. Um, And, since then, I started realizing as I was going how much I fast forwarded through so many parts of my life. Like, when was the last time I picked her up? When was the last time I tucked her into bed? When was the last time I tucked her into bed and said, I love you, and turned off the night light? You know, now she's going to be moving away to university. And I look back and say, when was the last time? And when was the last time I focused on my hopes, my dreams, my life, things that I want to do for me? And that's where intentional living really started taking place again, because I had to start separating what my goals were, what my passions were, how I wanted to show up in the world from my tasks, because they were both equally important. Trust me, I still had to do the wash, I still had to do the dishes, but what actions was I taking towards my goals, towards what I really wanted to do, how I wanted to show up in my life, and how I wanted to show up in other people's lives. And that was a big aha moment. And that's when I really started to intentionally take those steps every single day.
I love this because I think many of you probably are resonating with what Krista's talking about. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for this. And we're ever here. And then you look back and you're like, when was the last time I did that? When was the last time I did that? And yet we spend so much time worrying about the future or, ruminating about the past. We're not here. And what I hear you saying is intentional living is being right here in this present moment, being, making choices. And, like you said, sometimes those choices are doing a task that needs to be done. And sometimes those choices are really about, what do I want? What do I love? And what do I need to do to get there?
Yeah. And I think it's also that ripple effect of I made a choice today to, speak with you and, hopefully get on the summit. And I'm definitely honored that I was chosen to be amongst these amazing, other guests. But so I made that in choice because I intentionally wanted to be able to get some of my message. So maybe one person, maybe two, maybe a few more can end up resonating with some of my story. And it doesn't have to be the exact same story. It's the feelings behind it. It's the journey that we go on. And look where we are now. And it's not like we look back and say, oh no, I screwed up by saying, no, I've come such a long way from where I was. And now I'm going to really start intentionally living and taking a small action, any action, and celebrating it because I'm going to inspire other people. Like if I wasn't here right now, how many people would even know about me? I got
Right.
someone from the UK right now, the other side of the world. I'm from Canada. um, you know, coming on in. Hi, Coach Eve. And several other people, from around the world globally, who, how many times would I have the opportunity to meet with, to speak with, or to hopefully have their, my message, resonate with them.
Right. And all of those choices create ripple effects, don't they?
Yeah.
When we intentionally choose. And so I love, I love you talking about this. You could have chosen, your daughter graduated yesterday. You could have said, no, I'm just going to take today to do whatever, but I want my story to be heard because I feel like it's important.
Mhm.
And when you stand up and do that, you give permission for other people to do that too.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
I was going to say, and I'm so grateful that there's been other people before me who have done that and has inspired me to step up. and do that. And I only called a few names, but there's so many people who've honestly been in your summit that I've connected with. That's why I'm so avid, whether if I'm speaking or watching, and always get the VIP because the amount of amazing opportunities. So I won't even call them gifts that they are gifts we get, but the opportunities that we get to either meet people, or the physical things we get to keep and work through really can shift our life. But again, it's intentionally making those commitments to make the appointment, to download the downloadable, whatever it is, and do the work, because that's what's going to shift your life, and not just your life, everybody else's around you.
I love that. It isn't just about downloading the PDF, is it? It's about opening it and looking at the steps that it's asking you to take and taking those steps.
Yeah.
Or, like you said, making that appointment. It's only as good as the steps you take to get you there, and all of that is intentional. Krista, again, I could sit here and talk to you forever about all this. I'm so excited about how far you've come in the last few years, and I've been watching. But you have a free gift. Speaking of gifts, you have a free gift for everybody.
Yes. So I created a journal, and it's called Intentionally Living. And when you go through that journal, it'll start off everything through the year. You put everything on it, kind of like a brain dump. And then every week you can put what your, tasks are, and but what are your goals? And then you can check off on the end, what did I do towards my goals and what did I do towards my tasks? And then I have a daily habit tracker that, did I drink enough water? Did I sleep? And then there's room for you to fill out your own. And because it is really personal, and it's okay if you didn't meet your goal that day. That's okay. I actually have these notes called universal notes, so you can write and journal about your feelings, because there's going to be those days. I think someone said, maybe it was you. I don't remember, someone said you can spend the day, watching Netflix and eating ice cream or something like that. And that's completely okay. It's when you intentionally get back up and say, you know what, today I'm going to maybe do a little bit of extra, or I really needed that time to rest, because even though we go, resting is being productive too. And I really want people to resonate with that,
It
because we
absolutely
forget to
is
rest.
necessary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like I shared in my story, I kept going and going and going, and I ran out of gas. I ran out of gas, and you will eventually too. And so rest is as important as the action
Yeah.
as well. It's always a balance. Now, I know you also have a VIP gift.
Yes, I'm extremely excited for people to book with me. And I will offer a 45-minute reading, a Akashic record reading or intuitive reading of your choice. And I know for me, when I went to my first one, because of Leslie's VIP gifts, I was completely blown away, because I didn't even know what Akashic records were. I'm like, a who? um, and yes, it shifted my life. So don't be scared about the woo. It's all
Don't be scared
good.
about the woo. I like it. I like it. And the things that are happening, just like we said with Marty, the woo is starting to become a little bit more scientifically accepted. It's
Mhm.
there, whether you want to believe it in it or not. Now, Akashic record reading, there's a few of us here that are Akashic guides, and they were always worth it. So if there is more than one Akashic reading, take advantage of them, because you'll everybody kind of gets a different message from the soul wisdom. And so this is an amazing gift, Krista. This and however many VIP gifts, our speakers have been so generous. Upgrade if you haven't already. Upgrade. It's $47. You get all the recordings. You get Krista's Akashic record reading. And I'll be sending those out at the end of the day. So you will get all of those VIP gifts today to make sure you can take advantage of them. So our next speaker is Carol Metz Murray, The Power of Decision. And before we end here, Krista, what's one last thing you'd like to leave us with?
Start living with intention today, or start wondering where your time went.
Mm. Start living with intention today, or start wondering where your time went. I love that. It's time to be intentional. Time to be intentional. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Krista. I
Thank you
love
again,
having these
Leslie.
conversations, and I'm so excited to see you continue to grow and be the amazing light you are.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for taking the time to stay and listen to me and watch.